Right. Mr. Hall covering all bets. Mr. Camplin.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the subcommittee members and staff for holding such an important hearing on the lax behavior and misuse of science by ATSDR leadership and staff. My name is Jeffrey Camplin. I'm president of Camplin Environmental Services, Inc., a safety and environmental consulting firm based in Rosemont, Illinois. My chosen research specialty is asbestos. I've been a volunteer for the Illinois Dunesland Preservation Society since 2003, investigating why ATSDR purposely downplays the chronic asbestos exposure of millions of Illinois citizens each year. My story begins in 1993 when I brought my wife and 3 kids to Illinois Beach State Park, located on the Illinois Lake Michigan shoreline north of Chicago. After building sandcastles and burying each other in the sand, I heard my wife explain, "Look in the car. It's full of sand. It's in the kids' hair. It's in their ears. It's in their shoes. It's everywhere." Sand eventually ended up in our laundry room as well. Little did I know at the time that my wife, along with millions of other families, should have been saying, "Look at the asbestos contamination from the beaches. It's in our car. It's on our kids. It's in our home." I've been working for the last 6 years with Mr. Paul Koukouris, president of the Illinois Dunesland Preservation Society. Our research indicates that ATSDR has violated its mission to serve the public by purposely not using valid science, by not taking responsive public health actions, and by providing untrustworthy health information. Specifically, ATSDR has become a complacent agency, choosing to produce outdated, inferior work products when they know more valid science exists. When ATSDR's ethics and competence are challenged, a great wall of arrogance and denials appear from their leadership to strenuously fend off requests for accountability. ATSDR also takes advantage of the public's gullibility to trust an agency that is ethically bankrupt. The egotistical leadership and complacent culture at this once great agency needs a total overhaul. However, that's not enough. We are here today to demand accountability for the harm caused to public health by inexcusable and deliberate behavior of ATSDR staff in downplaying elevated levels of toxic microscopic asbestos along the entire Illinois Lake Michigan shoreline. Evidence demonstrates that U.S. EPA and the state of Illinois, along with ATSDR, bungled the cleanup of an asbestos Superfund site at the south end of Illinois Beach State Park, allowing trillions of asbestos fibers to be released from an unfiltered pipe into Lake Michigan to this very day. Their incompetency also allowed large areas of asbestos-contaminated lake sediments to be dredged and dumped on and offshore at a heavily visited public beaches. Federal agencies and state of Illinois then generated rigged data to conclude the massive asbestos contamination they created was not hazardous to the millions of citizens who frequent these areas. Illinois is well known for nurturing a culture of public officials with less than honest and ethical behavior. Illinois officials seized upon the opportunity presented by the complacent culture at ATSDR to protect their unethically symbiotic agendas. They obtained rubber-stamped approval of their intentionally flawed federal and state reports. In order to conceal the unethical behavior of their staff, ATSDR will tell you the science is still developing while they knowingly continue to use severely flawed and outdated asbestos risk assessments. What they don't tell you is the current science completely discredits and invalidates all of their past asbestos human health evaluations in Illinois, as well as hundreds of other sites throughout the nation. ATSDR stubbornly refuses to acknowledge this fact. Just this week, ATSDR arrogantly issued another health consultation which intentionally fails to warn the public about deadly microscopic amphibole minerals they found in beach sand and air. Instead, ATSDR recklessly continues to invite families to a shoreline chronically contaminated with asbestos. That is, as long as they don't touch the visible pieces of debris during their visit. Yet there's no recommendation to the public regarding the microscopic asbestos that gets on our kids, gets in our cars, gets in our homes, and ultimately enters our lungs. Maybe Dr. Frumpkin can explain his staff's findings that deceitfully conceal the hazard from the public. Another example of ATSDR's indiscretion include the review of one of their beach asbestos exposure results in 2006 that the EPA identified as potentially harmful to health. ATSDR dismissed the criticism by the U.S. EPA, stating the beaches were safe anyway. The fraudulent findings of ATSDR create a welcome permission slip for the continuing dredging of toxic asbestos-contaminated sand in Illinois. Spreading the contaminated dredged material on the shoreline increases the risk of mesothelioma cancer rates in Lake and Cook counties along Lake Michigan that are already have elevated mesothelioma rates when compared to national averages. How high must the body count get before ATSDR admits there's a problem? In 2004, then Illinois State Senator Barack Obama best summed up our feelings when asked by a reporter about the asbestos contamination along the Illinois shoreline. Our current president said at the time, "We can't have our kids swimming in areas that might be contaminated with asbestos." And then he stated they should consider shutting down the asbestos-contaminated shoreline. Precautionary protections are necessary to address the continuing public health disaster and egregious violations of public trust from getting any worse. The first step is for ATSDR to acknowledge their past studies are flawed. Next, limit the public's exposure to asbestos-laden shoreline beaches until scientifically valid exposure assessments can be completed in an open, inclusive, and transparent manner. The final step is to hold all parties liable for their actions. ATSDR officials Mark Johnson, Jim Durant, John Wheeler, and Howard Frumpkin, along with State of Illinois and US EPA officials, must be held accountable for their egregious and potentially criminal behavior that was resulted in millions of innocent families being unwittingly exposed to deadly amplifiable fibers. On behalf of the Illinois Dunes and Preservation Society and the citizens of Illinois, I want to thank you for this hearing.
My opening statement seems more and more temperate.